Hello, everyone. It is You Are the Spell. I am Aunt Carla, and I'm so excited for my first official interview. I have Empress ChaChanna. Da-da-da. Now, if you have been following me or Red Soulflower, you probably already know Empress ChaChanna. Empress ChaChanna is like my ace. I don't know, Sergeant Arms, Lieutenant, First General. I don't know what you call. She's everything. She's everything. And we also have a podcast, the Witchy and Woo podcast, that we co-host. And I thought it would be a really great fun um, to do a video podcast with ChaChanna because she's so much fun, and we usually record our podcasts using Zoom, and we just don't show the thing because we're like, I'm not bothered with makeup and looking cute, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, for this, I think to see I think it's kind of fun to see just the interaction that we do, and you're my witchy bestie, and I'm just so glad to be able to get to talk about you. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. So, Empress Shoshana, um, how did we get here?
How did we get here? So, oh my God, I'm so excited to be your first interviewee. So, and I just want to say for those of you watching, we did not plan to wear green. We just
No.
wearing that.
Earth signs.
Earth signs unite. I'm a Taurus and Carla's a
Capricorn.
Capricorn, and we are taping this during taping. I feel like an old school, like we're taping
Right.
live in front of a studio audience. Not. We're recording this.
But almost.
Almost. I mean, I guess if you count each other.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So this is what happens usually when we do our recording for the podcast, and this is why we don't let you guys see it.
Because we start talking, I'm like, oh my God, that was a podcast right there. We should have been recording.
I know, but how Aunt Carla and I got here is during the pandemic, before the pandemic, around the pandemic, Aunt Carla was doing the master classes. And it was around that time, I think a lot of people who are even in the spiritual community now, you start thinking like, okay, well, what can I work on it? My spirituality was a thing that I was working on at the time. So when you started doing classes, I started showing up, but I knew about you before then because you had done a review for the money drawing candle from the Conjure Goddess. And I was following the Conjure Goddess and I saw you. I was like, oh, she lives cool. And then I stalked you. And I was like, you lived not too far from me. And I was like, oh, I wonder if one day we could be friends. And I didn't say anything else about it. And then I started doing the classes and I was like, okay, so going to the classes. And then one day I just felt big and bold and I just messaged you. I was like, hi, I love what you're doing. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And I was like, okay, we're gonna see what happens. And she said yes.
I'm like, this is so cool.
Because really what I was asking was, will you be my friend?
And now look.
And now we are witchy besties. And how we got to the podcast was I saw Aunt Carla.
I love this story.
Do an interview. And I always support Aunt Carla. Anything interviewing, I'm always like watching it and everything. And so the interview, like, Aunt Carla, she's like, oh, this full energy. And then the person who was interviewing her had none. They were just kind of
flat.
And I'm like, you know what? She deserves a better interview. And you know what? She deserves to work with me. So before I even thought about it, I remember I was sitting in the parking lot in the park, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell her about it. So I did a video. I said, let's do a podcast. And I sent it, and I sat there, and I said, holy crap. If I send that and we do the podcast, I'm going to out myself as a witch. And I was like, maybe she don't want to do it again. Or maybe we can do it without me having to say it. But how could you talk about spells and magic without, I don't know, we're going to figure it out. And then during that time, we started working on the podcast, come up with a name and And the first episode, he said, you know what? I'm going to claim this. I am a witch. And Aunt Carla said right after that, well, you don't have to label yourself. I'm like, after I just put
Absolutely. And it's been so much fun and it's been such a great ride. And, but speaking of, it's Witchy and Woo, which is, and I think you came up with the title, and you often represent the woo, like the energy and the
Yes.
healing and the crystals. So it also makes sense that, you're I mean, you are witchy. I
Yes.
won't, but this is definitely, but you are also quite woo,
Yes.
I think.
Quite woo. So yeah, so that's our story.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this for the first time and you don't know anything about Witchy and Woo, please go to Witchy and Woo, and you could do that at let's see. Easy way to go is like redsoulflower.com/woo, but you can find us on Amazon, Apple, Spotify,
Overcast.
like all your favorite podcatchers, and what? And we just wrapped up our second season,
Yeah. Oh my
which
gosh.
is amazing. And like the the better I get to know you and the more we work together, I just love learning from you and through you and watching you grow. So I definitely want to segue into what you have been working on, your spiritual path and your new offerings. So what are you working on, Empress Shoshana?
Oh my goodness. So first, let me, in a nutshell, I came into these spiritual streets unknowingly. About a decade ago, I started doing tarot readings. So how I came to tarot was, I always thought they were like pretty cards, and was always interested in them, but not doing anything because, in our family, no one actually said to me not to do it or that it was bad. It just felt like it was supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
And I was in a networking group at the time, and I met with one of the women who she did palmistry and tarot. And I was like, palmistry is when, reading the hands. I'm like, oh my God, that'll be so awesome. So I set up a, time to meet up with her. And she was telling me about palmistry and everything. And so I asked, oh, well, how did you learn? And, how long it took you? And so she told me that she went once a week in the city, New York City. And it was 2 years. That's too long. What else you got?
Wait, that was like she took a class for once a week for 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a long time, sounds like.
That is a long time. And I live in Connecticut. We're next door to New York. I'm like 45 minutes from New York City. But I have no interest in going back and forth for so yeah, I was like, well, what else you got? So she told me about tarot. I was like, okay, tell me about that. So she told me about it and I trust her. And so I was like, you know what? She's not an evil person. And so I looked up tarot. I went to Barnes and Noble actually that night. And I bought my first tarot deck and the book. And I did what the book said. The book told me to sleep with the deck under my pillow. I'm like, that seems weird, but okay. So I did for a week because that's how we're bonding. And then, I had a journal, everything they told you to do, like write a journal a day or about the car and everything. And I did it, and I've moved since then. So I don't even know where that is now. But I did what they said. And then over time, I started doing like little readings, and I was really getting it right and my little knowledge. And so I've been doing it off and on, off and on. And then I transitioned a couple of years to doing Reiki. And that came about because my mom went to Sedona, the metaphysical Mecca.
Oh, yes.
And at the time she didn't know, she just bought like a crystal as a souvenir, as you do. And she brought it back. And so me, I'm always willing to learn. So I'm like, oh, okay. And they came with little messages about what the crystals were. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm researching. I'm like, well, what does this mean? So I went home and I bought books on the internet, everything. And then I shared it with my mom. And my mom was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Then we got all into that. Crystals, that energy that led to Reiki. And then Reiki, while I was doing Reiki, I was starting to get messages from the clients that I was working on. And I shared those messages with the people, and it was resonating with them. So I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay. So then I started offering Reiki and readings. So you get the Reiki, and during the Reiki, I get the messages. And after the session, then I tell you what came up. And that was cool. Then I started to go back into tarot as well. Like, I left tarot, I came back. And recently what happened when I was studying, I was doing psychic reading, studying that a little bit, but it didn't hit for me. I didn't see the point of it. I'm like, yeah, I could tell you about yourself. Yeah, but so what? What does that do for anybody?
Right.
Until I had a situation happen in my life that I needed clarity on. And I went to a reader, and she channels Jesus and Mother Mary, and anyone else who happens to show up in the room for you. And when she did the reading, it like resonated with me so highly that when I came out of the reading, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I feel like everything lifted off of me. And I was like, this is what it's supposed to be.
Mm.
And you know, I feel that happens, I think, in all life. Like it doesn't, if it doesn't matter to you, then you're like, whatever. But then once you get that experience and it helps change you or does something for you, you're like, oh, I see things differently now. So I see things differently now. And I went and I found a psychic development mentor.
Okay.
Like the next day. And it's been amazing since I just finished up 4 months, September. And it's been awesome. Like I no longer, I love it when people are like, oh, did you bring the cards? I'm like, I don't need them anymore. So, and I don't, and it's such an amazing experience to like really do it. First of all, I want to say that we all have the ability.
Yes.
I'm not anyone special. I just decided that I just want to study it and develop it.
Yes.
Because people use this. In the past, I've heard like, you know, this person, they're so gifted and they're so special. Okay, but we can all do it.
Yes, they made the decision to follow through.
Exactly. And there are some people who get it easier than others. If people like it just, they wake up, that's just how they walk through life. It's just, you know, how they do it. Like Sonia Choquette, someone that I look up to, she grew up in a family who, her mom like raised her to always ask her guides. And she has a book that I talk about all the time, Ask Your Guides, which I think is amazing. But that's how she grew up. So some people just grew up just being able to do this naturally. And other of us, myself, I had to actually get a mentor to help work and to develop that. So all that to say is that now I'm transitioned to different offerings. I don't say authorings. I'm like, no, I'm not writing anything. Yet. So what I do now is I do psychic life coaching. So it's really helping you uncover and heal and transform your life to make it what you want, because we operate on who we think we are.
Yes.
And a lot of times, and myself included, this is from experience, like you think it's the other person's fault. Like if they would get they together,
right,
we would be fine. Just do what I say.
I mean, preach.
Exactly. Wherein it's not the other person, that you can't control other people. You only control yourself.
Absolutely.
And so it's
but
like,
man, I wish I could sometimes.
It would be so much smoother. But you have to like really look within yourself, like, okay, this person does this thing. They're gonna, that's who they are. They're gonna keep doing it, whatever. And if you choose to be in their life, this is who they're gonna be. But now you have to manage your own self, your own energy. And so it's like uncovering, like, okay, well, why am I feeling this way? Why am I going through this? How can I take this out? How can I move through it so that I can not have the same reaction, not be annoyed as much? Or like, I keep sabotaging myself. This thing keeps happening to me. What is it? Why can't I go here? Why can't I do this? And it's like, okay, we can look in your inner self, but I tend to now go to, I call it Spirit Squad. Spirit Squad is your ancestors, your angels, your archangels, everybody in your spirit team. I call Spirit Squad, and they have a deeper knowledge than you do. Than we do. And for people who are not automatically tapping in and don't know, I work with them to help them figure it out. So when I come to a session, majority of the time, I don't come with a predisposed thing. I'm not showing up. I'm like, okay, what are we doing today? And I've been working with some clients and it's been working out well. And like, I just follow through and we figure out what it is, what is the thing that you need to work on? What is it that you need to, so we uncover during the session. And then your guys give like, okay, they tell me and I tell you, what it is that you need to work on, what is going to help heal you, what's going to move you forward, what's going to be impactful for you. And so that's what happens during that session. So that's one of the programs that I'm working to put together. And then I have other sessions where you can just, if you don't want to talk to me, you like, look, Sean, I just want a message. What do they have to say? I have mini guidance readings that are available. And it's just me tapping into your energy and giving you an audio. It's usually like 8 to 10 minutes of what the message is that's coming for you.
Nice. Okay. So I just have to take a quick stop just to reflect on your journey so far, just how you've gone through things. So and so, dear listener, dear viewer, if you're on any kind of spiritual path, I hope you're paying attention, because we go through different things. Like, she was in, like, tarot is like maybe one of the gateways
Yeah.
for Empress ChaChanna, but then she also got into Reiki. And then then she decided, wait a second, she wants to, oh, and the mediumship was in there as well.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. And then the psychic development, and then saying, "Oh no, I don't need the cards anymore." Because also the cards, they are tarot cards or oracle cards, they are often a tool. And I often feel that way when I do readings, that I can often get a vibe from people that I'm talking to, and the cards just sort of like validate, like, oh, okay. Because you can get if you are sensitive to these messages from your spirit squad, your spirit team, you, dear listener, dear viewer, when you are in touch with, when you are connected with those messages, those divine downloads, if you will, you can get a lot from the person speaking to you without them even saying. Like, you can kind of get a vibe of their mood, or even when someone is telling you a story, or they're telling you about a situation in their life, you may be claircognizant, meaning like you will have a sense of knowing what actually happened just from what they told you, and you don't even need to pull the card. Sometimes it's like, well, I'll pull the card, but we already, as far as I'm concerned, I kind of know what's going on. And I'm pulling the card because they want to see a card. Not everyone needs that to see the card, but people come to tarot readings because they want to see what the cards say. But the thing is, you're this person walking through with your aura and your situation and your energy, your vibration, all of this going on that's invisible, and certain people can tap into that without you even really having to say a lot. So I love that that is the route that you're taking. Or actually, I don't, I love when I say it's not your particular route, but just watching your spiritual journey and watching how everything is like unfolding and blossoming and growing. It's like, it's so, so cool. And I'm excited that, that you have these new offerings that people can learn about their own path, and that you have these other tools. Like, any other, I don't know, any other revelations that you've had, or lessons, revelations you want to share?
So you're right. In my spiritual journey, it was from tarot. I forgot mediumship is in there. So I've been through a lot of things, testing a lot of things. I also have been working heavily with astrology. And that is something, so I have like a coach for almost everything. So I'm in a program that's teaching me how to work with astrology for my business and for my personal life, using my birth chart to figure out when my best energy is, and when to do and go, and when my best energy is to just like sit back and relax. And so I just got into that. So I'm really excited about that. And also, what I'm working on now personally is ancestor veneration.
Okay.
And I'm working with NASA, and she is freaking amazing. She's an ancestral medium. And so I have been, when you come into these streets, you hear, at least I hear a lot, like, work with your ancestors, work with your ancestors. I'm like, no, I ain't doing that. But I got a reading. So I got a reading on Samhain celebration, and the person mentioned ancestors, and I figured, you know what, it is time for me to work with them. And then NASA came about, and I knew her, and she she does ancestral healing circles, and she's just really about it. And so now where we are right now is I'm learning about how to connect with my ancestors and having an ancestor guide. Like this week, I'm working on connecting with I have one, and I'm learning how to feel when he's around, and that
Nice.
it's pretty amazing. All this stuff is like so fascinating. Even though I can do it, I'm still like surprised every time. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
So I'm like still surprised everyone. And so I'm getting coached by her. She connects with her ancestors or the ancestors. And that's how she's like, okay. And she gets the messages of what we're going to work on and such and such. And then, it's just the veneration, what to do with the altar. And we're going to continue on. I just wrapped up, I think, our first month together. And and I'm excited to continue to work and see what happens, what turns out from there. I'm just really excited about it. But yeah, I've always continued learning.
Yes.
That's one thing. So if you're getting into that, I know a lot of people get into working with spirituality and they're like, I don't know where to start. Just pick something.
Just start somewhere.
And just start something. And once you read something, you'll want to go deeper with it, or maybe you'll hear about something else. And then I said, just follow. And that's what I was doing for a while. And when I was doing the practice mediumship, when I was in mediumship school, and I was doing the practice reading, there came a point where every message from every ancestor was like, integrate, like you're done learning now.
Ah.
Focus. And I'm like, but
But there's this new stuff. Yeah.
exactly. They're like, no, focus. You're learning all this stuff. That's great. But now you gotta start focusing. So that's when I started honing down, and I picked, I think that's when I focused on Reiki and tarot. Those focusing and growing into those more. And that's what led me to keep on to find what it is. Because what you're studying now may not be what you're studying later, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't study it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like when people who are new spiritual practitioners, whether they call themselves a witch or a spiritual practitioner or whatever, they often ask, well, where do I start? And I say, well, start with what calls you.
Yeah.
And you might find yourself in going in this little direction, and then you're like, oh, wait, but what about this thing? Oh, what about that? And it might look very, all over, yeah, chaotic, exactly. But the thing is, this is how you find out what's going on, like finding what calls you. And then also, I noticed this with myself, and I also noticed it with you, that also things can be very spiral, very cyclical in nature. There's things that we will come back to.
Yeah.
So I've seen you, like, astrology move around in different priority in your life. Same thing with tarot. This doesn't mean that you'll never ever look at tarot again. Maybe you'll teach it, maybe you won't. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm done with that. But the thing is, it's like we can't always plot out like we think we might be able to. Because now I also remember you had taken like a class that was like a year and a day, and that's how you got your foundation, a lot of this magical stuff.
Yeah.
And then after that, after a class like that, which I thought was so amazing, because it was like a year and a day, was that
Every day.
something like
Yep.
that? And you pick up all these different things, and then over that time, I would imagine you start to think like, oh, I like this, like, oh, I'm not really crazy about that, or, oh, that looks really good. So that foundation taught you all of these things, and then you can run free and decide, okay, I really want to do this thing. And so having that foundation is good. But for some people, they might not have a kind of class. They might just kind of find their way, like, ooh, you find like what books, you're at someone's house, you're at your grandmother's house, and you find some kind of interesting book, and you're like, ooh, grandma, can I borrow this? And she's like, oh yeah, but you bring it back. Or it might be something mystical, and it might be on palmistry or some other kind of spiritual topic. And next thing you know, now you're like going on all kind of Google rabbit holes trying to figure out, what that means. And I say follow that. Don't stifle yourself, or like judge yourself for kind of changing your mind. Because the thing is, we change our mind, and we ChaChanna and I talk about all the time. Like, we will buy a book, we will see a book, and we'll be like, oh my God, this is really great. But we might not even finish it. Or maybe we might have like one chapter that we really dug, and then we didn't even finish it, but maybe that's all you needed. Or maybe it was just that excitement that pulls you in a particular direction. And so, like, don't judge yourself. Don't, should on yourself for that kind of stuff. Just see wherever it takes you and just keep following those little breadcrumbs, and that kind of leads you to wherever you end up, clearly.
Yeah. Exactly. You said, oh, so the class that I took, it
Yes.
was from the Magical Path School of Witchcraft. And it was Witchcraft 101. I'm like, is that what I think it was that simple? I think it was
No,
Witchcraft
yeah,
101. And it
why
wasn't,
not? It can
yeah,
be that simple.
yeah, it was on the Magical
Oh,
Path.
be so
Yeah,
simple.
Magical is spelled Magickkal.
Gotcha. All right.
Magicalpath.com. And it was a year and a day. So went through everything from the altar, we went through energy, we talked about the Sabbaths, we learned about herbs, and then at the end of it, it was putting everything that you learned for the past 9 months, you put it together and you come up with a spell. It
Ah,
helps you come up with a spell, a big spell. And that evidence, this was this apartment, this came
yes.
that my biggest flex of 2021. And so yeah, so that was so everything. I may not use everything. Well, it wasn't, because it was just a little bit of everything. I would also stress that don't feel like you should know these things, or you should know because someone else is, because chakras, I really tried to get into it because I was doing Reiki. I'm like, well,
Right.
I know basics, but like studying it to me was just boring.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
was like, you know what, this ain't for me.
Okay. And you know what? That's it. Like where what makes you excited? You know, what turns you on and you're like, no, chakra's not doing it. And you know what? That's one of the things I love about you, ChaChanna. I don't know if it's your Taurus nature, but you know, there's things you're like, I'm not feeling it. No, I don't want to do it. No, that's too much work. No, I don't want to do it. And you're good about that. You know, you're not trying to put yourself, you're not trying to, you know, push a square peg into a round hole. It's like if
Mhm.
you're not feeling it, you will abandon that thing with the quickness. And but that's good. Some other people would be like, oh well, I'm supposed to like this and everyone's supposed to do tarot, so let me just try to, you know, do that thing because everybody's doing it. Or you're like, if you're not feeling it, you just were like, next. You know, like even when you're talking about the palmistry, what? Have to every going once a week, go to the city for a year. Oh no, I'm not doing that. That takes too long.
Okay.
I love that about you because it's very clear. You're like, nope, I'm not doing that. But
Mhm.
the other thing I love about you is that yes, you do have coaches for everything. So you have your spirit squad, but then you also have your mentors on this plane, on
Mhm.
this earth. And there's nothing wrong if you know, if you have the means, there's nothing wrong with having teachers. Because also some of these teachers, now you have like formal coaching teaching, but if you have like an auntie or grandmother or you know someone else that is willing to teach you, that means you're not by yourself. You don't have to learn everything trial and error. It can be so helpful to have someone who can guide you on your spiritual journey, to have mentors. So there's no shame, no shade in any of that. So if
Mhm.
you have the opportunity to work with someone, or someone wants to share information with you, or they see you on your path and they're like they want to look out for you and help you out with some protection spells or whatnot, then by all means. Like and I think also this is it's community is so important,
Yeah.
you know, and they're part of your community, having mentors. So peers are great, peers are important, having other people who understand your path. You know, if you're like in Searcy, Arkansas,
Yeah.
random place, but maybe you might not know any other witchy or woo people there. But you know, we have these online situations like the Red Soulflower Magick Family on
Yeah.
Facebook, or we also have the Magical You membership group. And it's so cool to be able to tap into these different communities and networks, but then to also have opportunities to work with a coach. So now you're offering what did you say, psychic life coaching? What was it? What did you
Psychic
call that?
life coaching. Yeah.
Psychic. So now you're now offering that kind of assistance to other people. And so people can work with you to kind of help them, to help kind of untangle the knots, because like we
Yes.
all have knots. And I think also with spiritual people, it's important to have, well actually I think wherever you are in life, whether it's business, whether it's spirituality, it's good to have mentors, people who will guide you, who know more than you. And
Mhm.
just like you hear about like psychiatrists or psychologists, they're often, I think they might be required to be also in therapy, because it's like when you're helping other people,
Mhm.
it's important that you're also getting your needs met, that someone is helping to untangle your knots.
Yeah.
So I think, and I think it's just important to have to be with someone who knows more than you, someone just to give you guidance or suggestions. And so if someone came to you to get those, you know what, I remember when you had that lesson, when you had that session with that woman, I believe, with that psychic, the woman who um channels Jesus and Mother
Yes.
Mary.
Okay. Mhm.
One of the things I remember you saying was you loved how it felt, and that you wanted to do that, that
Yeah.
you wanted to give someone that feeling of release. And that really stuck with me. And I think everyone needs that, no matter what level you are. It's important
Mhm.
to have someone who is ahead of you, that you can be, that can be your mentor
Mhm.
and give you that feeling, because we all need that. And I think, it comes to self-care, as spiritual people, we give so much. So it's important that we also receive. And that's one of those things that I think we often forget. If you get nothing else from today's, hopefully you'll get more of that. But one thing I definitely want to make sure that everyone who's paying attention understands is that it is even more important for spiritual people to have that self-care, to be self-aware, because that's like the source of our power.
Yeah.
And you can't give from an empty cup. So
Well, at least you shouldn't give from empty cup.
no, you shouldn't, because at some point then you're tapped out, and then you can't help anybody, and then you can't help yourself either. So there you
Well,
go.
wait, hold on a second. It is, I don't say you should, I want to should have. It is, I strongly recommend that you don't give from empty cup, because just think about you're scraping the barrel. So they're just getting like your little scraps that you that you have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's not in the best service of you or the person.
that's true. Nobody wants scraps.
No.
No, no,
It's like, no, no.
no.
Oh, Carly, you actually listen to me.
I do. I do. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm like. I love listening to your journey. Like when you're having your sessions, and you'll tell me stuff, and I'm like, really? Oh, I'm low key taking notes. I'm like, oh, okay. It's almost, it's almost like getting the session myself vicariously through you. Like, oh, that's what they said. Okay. So I'm definitely listening. I'm all in it. I am invested.
Yeah. Learning through, was it osmosis?
Yes, absolutely. I take all my teachings wherever I can get them.
Mhm.
I am a sponge. So tell us, so now when it comes to like the business side of things,
Yeah,
like both of us, so it's interesting because we're spiritual people, but we're also talking about it as a business, which
yeah,
I know some people don't like the idea of spiritual being a business, or spirituality, or making money from spirituality. But, again, it's also part of that self-care thing. If I can't afford to pay my rent and eat, because I'm
right,
giving away all these free, I'm giving away, I mean, I'm spending all this time
right,
giving away free readings and all this, stuff, but I'm not receiving anything. That's not good. That's
right.
not good. And if we make the decision, I mean, I suppose like in the Bible, it was a different kind of lifestyle. And people would go to the temple, and they would willingly
Mhm.
support the priests. They would willingly give them money, and they could, support themselves and eat. People ain't doing that now.
Mm-mm.
People want free. They want free. That's what they want. And they don't want to, I'm not everybody, but it's like when people have that kind of that entitlement attitude. They're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have to pay for this." Like, wait, what? Because do you understand, if everybody had that attitude, had that kind of takey, grabby attitude, that spiritual practitioner would not be able to
Right.
survive, you know? So I think we, as a society, as a people, as a community, we need to consider how much energy goes into giving the sharing those spiritual gifts. And also think about the time that we spent honing our
Yeah.
spiritual, that's woo, it's taken us a while to get to whatever point we're at. And
Right.
if we want to share our information, I don't have a problem with putting it behind a paywall. Now, I do give a lot of stuff for free. I have, the videos, podcasts, um, freebies, but for that extra level, there is a paywall, and I don't have a problem with that. But the people that do, there's I think it's like a money mindset thing, which we're not getting into today because that's like a whole other episode of Oprah or You Are the Spell. But there are such benefits I have found with working with a coach and being a coach and being a spiritual consultant. And that means, and to do it well means to treat it as a business,
Yeah.
not as a hobby, not as just this little side hustle thing that you do for, like, funds on the side. How do you feel about spirituality as a business, Empress ChaChanna? I'm kind of throwing you out there.
I've only got one thing to say. In the words of my brother, I got bills to pay.
Hello, hello.
He used to say that all the time. Like when you watch, like maybe you'll see a celebrity who was really high, and then all of a sudden they're doing like a commercial. I'm like, that's where it's like I wouldn't think that. And my brother would like, got bills to pay. I'm like, you know what? You're right.
He's right. He's right. Like they might not want to do that commercial, but they got bills to pay. And we
Yeah.
all have bills to pay. And there's nothing wrong with accepting money for what we do. And that is definitely a hill that I will die on. I've been dying on a lot of hills lately. Like I've been like, that's the hill that I will die on.
Well, you conquering a lot of hills.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm a lot of hills out there.
I
The hills are alive. So
mean, you are the goat is your thing. They do climb, so I guess that makes sense.
that's true. That's true. But also now remember thinking about the fact that we are also both earth signs. Earth signs, we are grounded, but we are also about making sure that we have security.
Mhm.
So security is very important. And as I said, back in those ancient times, biblical times, a priest could expect to
Yeah.
be supported by the community. But the community is not supporting spiritual people now. They're not. I mean, it's not like people are automatically saying, "Oh, okay, I'm just gonna give you some money, whether whatever it is that you do or don't do. I'm just gonna pay you
Right.
a little something every month. I'm gonna give you 10% of. I'm gonna tithe, meaning the 10%. I'm
Right.
gonna give you 10% of what I make a month just so you can live." Like that's not what people are doing. Now I do get tithe from time to time, and that I love that. I remember, especially um, during the pandemic when we had some of us had more money than time, or actually we had time and money.
Mhm.
um people would people they'd give me like a $10, $20, and I was like,
Mhm.
wow, that's awesome, because I was giving away a lot of free stuff.
Oh my
And then
God.
people
Wait, can we
would,
stop for a moment?
yeah.
During that year in 2020, you showed up every Sunday with a brand new class.
Oh, it's true, it's true.
That was like at least 30, 30 new classes.
Yeah, yeah, that first year, that whoo, yes, and by October, 10 months in, I was burned out. Like I did a brand new, but I did a brand new master class every single week. But you know what though? That's kind of how I honed my skills as an online teacher, but
Mhm.
also that's how the community was built, because
Yeah,
people would be showing up every week. And then at the end of one class, depending on what people were talking about, I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about that next week,
yeah,
and I'd be there with, I'd spend all week creating a brand new masterclass
yeah,
and a new like shopping cart. And so by the time I was like, okay, I'm done, I
yep,
got really good at a lot of things. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm really quick now with a lot of stuff. But now I'm able to take all of that stuff that I learned.
Yeah.
And now I'm like refashioning, rejiggering. I'm
Right.
able to use some of those same lessons. I'm reinventing things. I mean,
Okay.
it's some of this, I mean, it's still new stuff, but for example, I realize like that clarity candle spell that I teach that a lot. I realize that, and people still talk about it, and it's like it's such a basic spell, but it's so important. So I
Mhm.
find that the clarity candle spell shows up a lot
A lot.
in different things because I think we all need it. Um, but anyway, we're talking about you here. So we are in the business of creating, spirituality offerings, and we got to pay the
Yep.
bills. Yes. And how I know that you have worked also with a business coach yourself on this
Yes.
on and what are some of the things that you have learned from about building a business regardless of if it's spiritual or not?
Well, the coach that I work with, she's a business coach, Jay with Vivid with Jay.
Mhm.
She has a program called List and Launch. And so I'm part of
What
that.
was it called?
List and Launch.
Oh, okay.
So she's not, she doesn't teach spiritual business, whatever. It's just business.
Yeah.
And so when I was with her, I am still with her. So when I started with her, I was just doing Reiki. I was doing Reiki services, crystal healing, and tarot readings. So that was great. But she's like, okay, how can you? There's only so many hours.
Yes.
There's only so many, much time you have, and I at this current time, I have a full-time job.
Right.
So only so much time. So she's like, well, if you want to like expand this and make more money, you're gonna have to change. You can't do the one-for-one as much anymore. Like
Right.
come up with programs and such. So the first iteration, so I'm like, okay, so the first iteration of the business was going to be helping people connect to their intuition.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so part of that program was like, getting to know your clients. So I found some groups of people, spiritual practitioners who are just coming into it. And a lot of them were asking the, questions when you come in, like, I saw a feather. What does that mean? And, the candle burned this way. What does that mean? And I always hold true, like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means for you. I know
Right.
maybe what I saw it, what it would mean, but it doesn't mean when you see it is what it means. So if you're out there and you're seeing candles or the numbers or anything like that, think about what were you thinking about? What were you doing in that time?
Right.
Were you thinking about something? Were you about to think? Were you about to do something? That to me, or even think like, what does a feather represent to you in your life?
Yes.
I suggest don't Google it.
Yeah.
Use yourself. Your spirit
Yes.
guides are going to tell you. But I feel that we give away our power a lot when we don't give ourselves the opportunity to even like think about what that could possibly mean for us.
Yes. Yes.
So that's, and I will die on that hill.
Yeah. Yes.
I found that I was like, if those are the questions that are going to come to me, I'm not really that interested in answering that question over and over. So maybe this isn't for me. So then I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And that's when I had that reading where I felt amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, and at the time I thought I was going to bring together astrology and spirit guides and make that a program. And I went with that for a little while. And then actually my spirit guides, they were like, they kept bringing it up. And I'm like, well, no, because at the time I was like, well, is anyone going to really get this come from me just psychic readings? Is that enough? No, I need to add astrology to it to make it more, more tangible. But the more I was with my coach, and so she was like, yeah, no, your guides are saying, what's wrong with you just taking this astrology and just keeping it for yourself? Because I have a tendency to learn something and be like, oh my God, I want to share with everybody.
Yes. Yes.
And so she's like, what is it? What if you just took this and just kept it for yourself and used it for yourself? And then you just went that. And I'm like, you mean just do readings and that's it? That's how I was feeling. And it's like, yes, that is it. Because I will say that even though I can connect to my guides, if I'm too close to something, I'm not going to see it.
Yeah.
I'm going to either interpret what I want to interpret,
Yep.
And sometimes it's not even good news that I interpret, but it's something that I want. Hurt my own feelings. So that's when I go outside to someone else
Yes.
who's is objective and can give me, without me and my emotions all over the place.
Right.
So I've recently retooled my whole thing again. And so I'm taking out the astrology and I am keeping that for myself. And I'm just strictly working on mastering delivering my psychic coaching sessions, and they're really going well. Like I had a session the other day and it just went, I literally just showed up and I was like, what are we gonna, in my mind, I don't say this to the client, like, I don't know what we're gonna do. I did with my beta people. I'm like, look, we're gonna see what happens. They're like, okay, let's do it. But for other clients, I show up, I'm giving my secret away now, but I'm thinking like, yeah, we're gonna do today, spirit. And then the person shows up and then it happens.
But that's that trust, though. You are trusting that somebody's going to show up and you are going to be the channel for that voice to come through.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now, something you just mentioned, and you catch it, and I don't know if I've caught it in you, but you have definitely caught it in me. We talk about peacocks in our spiritual business. So, dear listeners, dear viewers, I have a tendency, and ChaChanna was kind of hinting as well, that like when we want to offer something, and whether you have a spiritual business or any other kind of business, you're like, okay, I'm going to offer this service or this product, and there is sometimes a tendency to want to add all this stuff in there. And one day ChaChanna was like, okay, so you're going to give this and this, and then I'm going to throw a peacock in there. And I'm like, oh, so that became like, you explain it. You're really good at it.
So that's our joke when we say,
Yeah.
so when we're saying to each other and we're doing programs, I'm like, sounds like a peacock. Peacock is nice and flashy and beautiful, but like, yeah, you don't need it.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. It's remembering that you are enough, that what you are offering is enough, and you don't have to add all this extra stuff in order for it to be valuable. What you are offering, what your gut initial your initial idea, first thought, best thought, is what it needs to be. And when you try to gild the lily, it's just not necessary. Because even when I was putting together the Winter Witch Party planner, it was just going to be a planner. But then I was like, I went to, my husband and I went to Trader Joe's, and we saw this, their flyer, and it had like all these foods for Christmas, holiday foods. And I was like, oh, kitchen witchery. I'm going to make it a recipe book. I'm going to add recipes and add kitchen witchery in there, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, wait a second, my due date to have this thing ready is like in the next couple days. I don't have anything already written about kitchen witchery or these recipes in detail. If I did, that would be one thing. And I caught it, thank goodness, but I could hear his voice in my mind, like, that's a peacock, girl, that's a peacock. So I pulled myself from the brink, and then I just kept it a journal and planner. But I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about this, that might be more appropriate to work towards for spring. Like if I'm thinking more, like thinking more gardens and oils. And so I'm thinking I might do something then, but to think I could do it now when I only had a couple of days, that's a peacock of the highest order. Oh my goodness. So again, this is also great. This is why it's also great to have other people that you can talk to, that you can bounce ideas off of, to have peers, to have mentors, teachers, coaches that can just say, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. So ChaChanna, I'm so grateful for you for the whole peacock analogy, because you're right. And I'm throwing a peacock in there.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's so easy to want to throw peacocks in there because you're like, because you're charging money for it.
Right.
You want to make sure that this has so much value, has so much in there that they can complain about the price.
Right.
But you have to think about, is the person, it's nice, but is that person going to be able to get anything from it? If you put like 15 things in there,
yes,
are they going to be able to work through all 15 to get to where you want to go? Because I know when I see programs and they have like 15 million things, I'm like, you know what? It's too overwhelming. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and apparently a lot of people leave groups or leave ongoing things because of the overwhelm. Like there's just no way I can finish all of this. There's no way, just like I don't even know. So that's something to think about. Just remember you are enough. What you are offering is enough. You have a lot of value in your initial, your program has a lot of value without adding peacocks and, oh, I'm going to give you some jewelry and, uh, it's a thing. But yeah, so it's just good. So, and one of the other things I love about you and our friendship is that we can talk about business, spiritual business, and we talk about it a lot.
A lot.
And but I love that. It's like we kind of geek out on topics and stuff. And and I love also doing that for other people. So now, I do the spiritual biz consultation, and
Mhm.
I also offer the VIP day. And I wouldn't have even thought about doing a VIP day until you were telling me about
Oh,
your coach Jay
yeah.
was talking about. She wanted you to do a VIP day at the
Mhm.
very beginning. And I was like, she could do a VIP day. I could do a VIP day. Like it hadn't, like it really opened my mind. Again, see, I'm telling you, I'm definitely listening. I'm definitely taking notes. And over the course of our time, just talking about it, I was like, well, what would my VIP day look like? And then we did for Witchy and Woo, we did a podcast on spiritual business,
Yeah.
and I got two clients for I don't even think I had, and that was which was so great because I don't even think I had an official. I might have had like a shopping cart for it, but it
Yeah.
was kind of like I didn't really know that anybody would
What?
want it.
Yeah.
But from that podcast, I got two clients. I was like, holy. And they were both such wonderful experiences. And if you're wondering what a VIP day is, that's when I spend a day working with you, a day or a half day, um, focused on your business and figuring out where the energy leaks are, because it's easy for that's why I say it's important to have someone else
Yeah.
to help you, to help kind of unravel those knots, and to say this is too much or this is too little, and to be able to say, okay, this is you're not charging enough for this. Your website needs to have better, links. You need to have a
Mhm.
better description, or this is it. Just to be able to have someone on the outside say, okay, you want to have a spiritual business, you can have a spiritual business. And that's the other thing I love about your coach Jay. Like I remember when you're telling me about her, and I was looking at her website, or maybe there was something on her Clubhouse page. There was something she was very, there was a point that she had that she was very adamant about, that like you couldn't claim any kind of religious slash spiritual superiority. There was something about, like, she didn't discriminate. Like you couldn't be like, oh, okay, I'm Christian, therefore I forgot how it was written, but there was something that was written that was saying, you cannot assume that everyone in here is Christian or
Mm.
a certain kind of spirituality. And the way it was written, I really dug that, because she knows her ideal client, and she knows that they may be spiritual and they might not fall under a specific kind of, I am faith-based means so many things to so many different
Yeah.
people. So I really liked her openness, and that kind of rule that she was laying down was that you cannot, that there would be no discrimination allowed. Kind of,
Mm.
I forgot how it was written, because like I've been in spiritual groups, I mean, I've been in business groups, and like it says business, but yet people will be like, but won't he do it? It's very God
Yeah.
this, God that. And I am, I consider myself, I do believe in God. I believe in divine energy. I don't have any problem with that. But I did not feel comfortable saying my witchy program is like really great. Like I didn't really feel like I
Yeah.
could,
Endorse.
feel
Mm.
like they are they gonna run me off with virtual pitchforks? Like I don't know. So if you are choosing to work with a coach, make sure that they have an open mind and they're not going to be judgmental. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, that your coach Jay, it was so clear that she is non-judgmental, and your spiritual path has nothing Like it does not affect her ability to coach you well.
And yeah, definitely. And she is an amazing coach, and she is working with her has really transformed my business and how I think about my business. I think of my business as a business. And
Mm-hmm.
going to this year, I'm so excited about this business, about where it's going. I have the programs. I feel confident that it's going to be successful. And also with my spirit guides, I know what I'm working towards.
Mm.
Scared about it, but I'm working toward it. And like everything is just like coming together.
Yes.
And I find that so fascinating. Like if you had asked me, even this time last year, if you had asked me like, oh, you're gonna do psychic readings, I'm like, no, I ain't. Um,
You
like
didn't know.
I didn't know. So in 2018, 2019, I don't remember, I think it was 2019. I was in my favorite crystal shop getting a
Mm-hmm.
crystal for my mom. She had sent me there because she wanted a specific crystal.
Was that Crystal Connection?
No, this one is actually the Funky Hippie.
Okay.
In Stanford. She's virtual now, but when the shop was open, so I was in there, I was getting the crystal, and it's just me and this other guy just walked in. He was a medium. So he turned around to me, he's like, "Are you a medium?" It's just me and him in there. I'm looking around like, "You're not gonna be." I'm like, "No." So he's like, I almost felt he was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Well," he's like, "because when I walked in here, he's like, I felt like I thought you were a medium." I was like, "No." I was like, I do tarot cards." And he was like, there is something inside of you that's calling out, that wants to come out. And
Mm.
he's like, and one day, he's like, he said, one day you won't need them. And I was like, you're right. I'm always gonna use those cards. Those cards are pretty. Have you seen them? And I have a lot of them.
That's true.
And I still have a lot of them. And so to be here now, and I'm like, he was right. He knew what he's talking about.
And I remember when you first told me that story, I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, did he ask for money?
Right?
I'm just like, I'm skeptical, like, and for 5.9 and for 25.99, you too can be a medium. But look what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, he told me a whole lot of other stuff too that I don't really remember, but I specifically remember those things that he said. I'm like, wow, I didn't believe it then either. And then, so yeah, so a year ago I wouldn't believe, didn't believe it when it was 3 years ago. And so now it's like, wow, he's right. I don't need them. And what I love working with my psychic mentor, development mentor, Crystal Moreland, the freedom medium. And so what she teaches is not just to get messages for other people, but it's also like for yourself.
That helps, yeah.
Also, I haven't noticed people teaching that part.
Mm.
Always about, what you can do for other people, and which is nothing wrong with that. But what I'm finding fascinating is that this also feels like a personal development thing within this coaching program for the psychic development, because I'm like also learning to hear and trust my guides for myself, which is awesome because then I can have a better life.
Yeah.
And by listening to the guidance. And I just find that really fascinating. There was something else I was going to say. I can't remember, but yeah. So if you're going to look for a psychic mentor, it helps if they're also helping you develop to listen for yourself, so you can find your own guidance. Because you can find that, for me, I don't go places, or I know when to do things or when not to move. I'm like trying to think, where's an example? I can't think of one example at this moment. Like they're all just dispersed. I was gonna go to a show, and I got really that moment. I was gonna go in the city to go visit some friends, and I had the option. I could take the train, I could drive. And I was thinking like, oh, well, it's during the day, I could just take the train. But I'm like, oh, God, I really don't want to. I was like, but that's fine. But I got the strong thing, was like, don't take it, don't take it, don't take it. I was like, you know what? And then I thought the train was going to leave at 2:30. I thought it was going to leave at 3. It was actually going to leave at 2:30. And I was leaving my house at 2, and I'd make another stop. I was like, but I wasn't like that stressed. I'm like, I know I can catch it. But on the way, I was like, you know what? I think you're right. I'm not going to take it. And I'm glad I didn't because it was freezing that night.
Wait, so you took the car or the train?
I drove.
You drove, right?
I
Okay.
drove. So it was freezing that night. So I'm like, oh, thank God I listened. And then my friends, I thought they might have trained in whatever, but the part of the city that we're going to be into, I was going to take the train and a subway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh God. So I was really happy I didn't do that. So it's just like small little things. Like one thing that I thought was that when you're like a psychic or you have that connection, you can like your life is easy breezy. And it's not. Because although you can get what you want, you still have to do things. People still have to be disappointed in you and the decision that you make and the boundaries you put up. So it's not an easy breezy cover girl lifestyle that I thought it was going to be. It's not that hard either, because I know
Right,
it's
right.
not going to help me, but it's you still have challenges, you still have to go through, you still have to push through, you still have to still do the things to get to what you want to get to. And I don't know why that just came up. Another thing that crystal teaches is that it's all energy. So it's not like you just study, like I'm studying mediumship and that's what I do. I'm studying going to Akashic and that's what I do. I'm studying past life grid and that's what I do. She says it's all energy. And if you could do one thing, you can do all of them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Just, we were talking about the Akasha, the Akashic records, or this other dimension. And I, some of the studies I've been doing this year, I feel that when we talk about magic, for example, the idea is that there is the astral plane. So we do a ritual, and the ritual, the elements, our intention goes out into the
Mhm.
astral plane. But I was learning about the Akashic records, or the Akasha, and I was like, they're in the same neighborhood. This it's the same thing. I think it's the same place but a different name.
Mhm.
So when we talk about the Akashic records, I'm like, the Akashic records are in the astral plane. Like, it's all the same neighborhood, and it's energy, or it's this energetic field, but or this library, this liminal library that you're able to access. I'm like, that's in the astral plane. So it's all energy, it's all that same place. Where do you go? And I've been thinking about like meditation, and what that means. Like, it's like I'm not a big meditator, but I love guided meditations, because like the idea of me just sitting and paying attention to my breath, like, that gets me nowhere. But if I'm washing dishes, I
Mhm.
can meditate then. If I am knitting, which I'm not that great at, I can definitely get into a meditative state. So for me, walking, so like I like moving meditations.
Mhm.
And what I'm learning, and now that I offer guided meditations, things like the future you meditation within magical you, it's considered what they call a timeline jump. And I'm like, okay, all of this is still happening
Yeah.
in the astral plane, or the akasha, that it's that area that we cannot see, this energetic realm. And it's so fascinating to learn about. And I don't exactly know what my point was, but I will say that I guess it's related to what you were saying about it's all energy.
Mhm.
um but to piggyback on something else you were saying, sovereignty is also our goal.
Yeah.
It's not about what do you think this candle means? Like, this candle burned like this. Well, what do you think it means? It's like, no, what does it mean to you? What is that? Because what were you doing at the time when you saw that number? And for me, mastery isn't the right word, but as we become more confident in our abilities, we can
Mhm.
trust that it means what I say it means, because nothing really has meaning except the meaning that we give it. That's
Right.
that's the thing. So you have to decide that, okay, this is the thought that came to me when I saw that number, or when I first saw that candle burn, that first thought, that's what that means to me, and I'm sticking with it. It's
Mhm.
not about, I'm going to go to five different readers and ask them questions. I'm not going to go look at 10, I'm not going to spend an hour, 10 hours on YouTube trying to find out what that means to someone else.
Mhm.
So, sovereignty and trusting your own instincts is
Yeah.
very important as a spiritual person. But I understand that that's also a it's a journey, it's a
Yeah.
process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because and we're all on our own journey, going on our own path.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know what? We are going on and on as we are wont to do, but I suppose I should, I should wrap this up because, people got stuff to do. But tell us where we can find you, Empress Shoshana.
Before we can tell you where you
Oh,
can
oh, yeah, yeah,
find
yeah.
me,
Yeah, yeah. Where else is
I just
going?
want to
Sorry.
say, so whoever you're working with, if you're working for a spiritual practitioner, working with a spiritual practitioner who does tarot or gives you message in any way, the goal that you also said that Luz Estrell, love her,
Yeah.
that is that when someone leaves you, when you leave someone, you should leave feeling hopeful. You should leave
Yes.
feeling good. If you
Yes.
leave feeling like utter crap,
Yes.
that may not be the reader for you to go back to.
Yes.
And it's not that you won't ever get anything that you don't want to hear, but in my opinion, you should leave feeling like, okay, I didn't hear what I want to hear, but I know what my next steps are, or I feel more clear, or I feel like you feel a little bit better. You should not be leaving feeling like, oh my God, my life is over. This is awful.
Yes.
And that is one of my, since you said that Luz Estrell said that, that is my
Yeah.
number one goal. Like when I'm done with, even if I'm delivering news that there's news I do not want to deliver, that I
Right.
do it in the best way that I can, with the most highest energy that I can.
Yes.
And then asking like, okay, this is the news. What can we do about it? What can we do
Yes.
for? Because another mentor that I followed said that your readings should be healing,
Yes.
impactful, meaningful, and move the client forward.
Yes.
And those are always my goals. So when you're going to read it, whether it's me or anyone else, I really hope that you put that into mind. So follow them on Instagram, on their socials. How do
Yes.
you feel about them? I wouldn't just pick a random person. I've done that and it's been lukewarm. I'm like, okay, that didn't really help me do anything.
Yeah.
Follow the people, see what you feel about their energy, be like, oh, can I trust? Do I feel good? Do I, do we vibe together? Can I imagine myself sitting in front of this person and then telling me something that I believe?
Yes.
And that's just the number one thing I just want to put out there when you're looking to choose a reader, and when you're looking to choose a coach. I'm not going to say that they have to be certified. I am certified, but they, again, follow them, read their stuff. Do you resonate with it? Because sometimes people who are certified are crap coaches too. So
Yep.
it's not just about the certification or the certification or the letters behind their name. It's how are read their testimonies. How are their clients feeling? What are they saying? Are they saying things that make you be like, oh, I want to feel like that. I want to do
Yes.
that.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, it's just not going up picking up random person because they say they can do readings.
Yeah. Yeah. Can they help you get results?
Can they help you get results? Do they just tell you things that are like kind of vague and something that you could have just, opened up a horoscope book and read for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So if they have, for lack of better, if they have free samples, or if they're giving readings or somewhere, whatever, that you can sample, do that before you commit to a big 45-minute session reading.
Yeah.
Because because when I first came out looking for readings, I just like tested this person, test that person. And a lot of times it's just like, oh, and then there's sometimes when that person, they did nothing wrong, the just energy's not there. Like I had a client come and I did a reading for them and they weren't feeling it. I could feel they weren't feeling it. They weren't feeling it. It just wasn't there. And I'm like, okay. And I don't take that. I try not to take that personally. I'm like,
Right.
we just don't vibe. I mean, how could we not vibe with this though? But we just don't
But
vibe.
that means on some level you might not be vibing with them.
Exactly, and that's fine. But so I guess I'm also saying that to people who are doing tarot readings or doing psychic readings, not all the time that you do a reading that that the person's gonna vibe with you, you're gonna vibe with them. No matter if you're giving them the information on point, or if they say that no, it doesn't. I had a woman sit with me when I first started doing tarot readings at where did I do it? I was bold. I got a table at a fair.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing tarot readings maybe a year or maybe a couple months. What was that? It was it was like maybe a year. And I decided I'm going to get a table at a fair. And so they put me out by the door. So I sat there. I was doing 3 cards, $10. I'm like, let's see what comes. And so I did. Everybody went fine. And this one woman, everything I told her, she was like, nope, doesn't resonate. Nope, nope. And my confidence, I'm saying like, okay. I mean, she didn't ask for her money back. I didn't offer it.
Ah,
But I did the best that I could do, but she was like not feeling it. And I'm like, there was nothing I could have done. Like, okay, if you're not feeling it, there's nothing I can do about that. I mean,
true.
she was nice about it, but yeah, that reading just always sticks with me. But I got 7 people that day for my first thing. So I made $70 and I was so proud of myself.
Yay.
Yeah, yay.
Go, Shoshana, go.
Yeah, so in conclusion, the programs that I do, everything is around what I just said, helping you that you get readings that are meaningful, healing, impactful, and move you forward. And whether you get a mini guidance reading, all I do is you don't even have to be around, and I just read the energy. What comes up for you? Ask your guys, your spirit squad, like, what is the message? What do you have? What's for this person? I sit, I record it, end recording, send it off to you. And with my psychic soul sessions right now, they're about you coming with something that you want to work on. Like, a lot of people who come for a reading, you already know what's bothering you.
Yes, people usually do.
They already do. So it's for you to come, like, what is that issue that you're working on? And then in that session, that time together, we go to the spirit squad and we start talking like, okay, what is this lesson? What are you needing? What's in the way? And by the time you leave, you know what your next step is going to be for that session. And then I also have another program where it's a 3-month program where we meet together a couple of times a month, working through the big meaty thing that's next for you. If you don't know what that is, then we sit and we ask spirit, okay, what is this thing that's going to move this person forward? Is going to be meaningful, healing, impactful. And then we work on that for the next couple months to move you through, because the whole thing is about helping you uncover, to heal, and to transform, to have the best life that you can while you're here. It doesn't matter if you're like, well, no, I don't work with people who are under 18. So you'd be like 20 to like 60, 70, 80, whatever, because I just want us all to have, to live our best life right now, including myself.
Yeah.
And I so enjoy helping people and going and having that experience and seeing the transition and the transformation happen. It happens slowly, so I can see it. But as the person who's going through it, you don't see it. By the end, you will. And it's just like, so exciting. Anyway, so blah. So if you want to know more, if you would like to know more, you can go to lightyourownpath.com, because I'm always about you lighting your own path, not looking at somebody else's path, seeing what they're doing. It's you making bold step after step to create what it is that works for you. I'm also on Instagram at Light Your Own Path, and I'm spelling it all out: LIGHTYOUROWNPATH.com. I think I spelled that right. Light Your Own Path. Yeah.
Yay. And then also you can always also hear her as on Witchy and Woo with
Oh my
our
gosh, yes.
podcast.
And then I also have my own Light Your Own Path
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
So, absolutely, absolutely. And if there's any questions about anything that I've been talking about or need clarification, you can always reach out to me. Do it through Instagram. Always DM me. I respond personally to each and every DM.
I love it. I love it. So in that case, I love our usual sign off, and I think we need your sign off. Our Witchy and Woo sign off, because I just love it. Yes, yes.
First, thank you so much, Aunt Carla, for having me here. This has been so much fun.
You're so welcome. Thank you for making the time. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so for you, lovely viewers and listeners of the podcast, always wanting you to go out there and make something magical happen.
Because you're a magic.